Hey everyone, this is Jeremy Schiefling at Khan Academy. Thanks so much for joining our session on best practices for using Khan Academy with ELA. To that end, we are very lucky to have Madeline, one of our superstar ambassadors, on the line today to talk about that very topic, how she uses Khan Academy's ELA content in her own classroom and how you can use it in our new remote learning environment. As a quick refresher, if you're new to these webinars, feel free to ask questions at any time using the questions feature. After Madeline lays out sort of the key points she wants to share with you about using Khan Academy in your classroom, she'll take your questions live. So share them via the questions format, and here we go. So Madeline, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
We're super excited to have you here. And just to give folks a sense of where you're coming from, tell us about your own journey as an educator.
Absolutely. So this is my 8th year of teaching, and I've been really lucky to have very different teaching experiences. I have taught in 2 different states, in 5 districts. I've taught in rural, suburban, urban settings, and I've taught middle school and elementary. Currently, I teach 3rd grade.
Very cool. And how long have you been using Khan Academy for, and what do you typically use it for in your classroom?
So I've used it for a little over 2 years, and I use it for a lot. So I got started mainly using it for math, and that's how I do my math homework actually is through Khan Academy. But over time, as I've gotten more comfortable with it, I use so much on it now. I use grammar. I use the ELA beta that just came out recently. I use the computer programming, and I also use history.
Very cool. Okay, sounds like you're a Khan Academy super user, so that's perfect. That's what we need. And so for those who want to aspire for super user status but are just getting started today, especially in this difficult environment we find ourselves in, any beginner tips for just getting started with Khan Academy, especially as it pertains to ELA?
Um, I think that some of the easiest ways to get started, well, if you're elementary, I really recommend adding multiple courses to your classroom. So adding math, grammar, and the beta ELA, and then just kind of explore what those have to offer. I think the ELA beta is really awesome to be able to use as more complete units of study. And then the grammar is nice for those little check-ins to reinforce skills you've taught in the classroom.
Very cool. And let's actually just pull up some of that so folks can see it on their screen. So basically, we've just added a new class. And out of curiosity, because I know this always comes up, how do you
Mhm.
even get your students enrolled? I know it's especially a challenge with elementary students.
Yeah, so if you're middle or high school, I say don't enroll them yourself, share it, push it out via Google Classroom. It's really easy on Khan Academy to do it that way. But if you're elementary, especially right now, I would just go ahead and create your students' accounts for them. I know that so many parents are overwhelmed, and so that's just one thing that you can do. All you have to do is type in the student name, and then a username and password will be created, and then just then you can just email it out to families, and it's really easy. Just download the CSV for sure. Some people skip that, and which is really interesting to me. Don't skip it, download it so that you have that on your computer. I mean, you can access it other ways, but I mean, that's going to be the easiest.
Great. And so, once someone has created their class and they've applied all those different courses that you were talking about, how would you
Uh-huh.
even get started? Like, how would you get a student using ELA on Khan Academy for the first time?
So what you're going to want to do is first, you're going to want to assign something so that when the students get into Khan Academy, there is something for them to do. Um, and so I teach 3rd grade, so I would go into the 3rd grade beta and then just click on a unit. So right now I've been doing a lot of actually the vocabulary because we've done so much of that work in the classroom. I think it's nice during this time to first start off with something you have already covered with them in person. Because if this is new to them, they're going to feel more comfortable if, okay, I know what context clues are. Okay. And then they can do an assignment that feels a little bit more familiar, even if it's a new website. So that's what I started with. We've been doing so much context clues, so I assigned them something on there, even though
Very
my
cool.
students are comfortable with it.
And here's an example of what some of those questions look like. Now, imagine that someone is going to start Khan Academy for the first time, not having that sort of prior experience in the classroom with it. Um, would you recommend rolling this out like over a Zoom conversation or a Google meeting, or like how would you even give students a sense of what they're supposed to be doing and what an assignment looks like?
Yeah, so I would definitely do a some sort of live meeting and get them excited about it. Um, Explain why you're going to be using it. Maybe you want to share, if you're not familiar with Khan Academy, they get mastery points and they get to create avatars for themselves and things like that. And so if you're working with younger kids like I am, or even some of the older kids, they get excited about that. So walking them through it, through share screen so that they can see what it looks like. The first time I did Khan Academy, or the first time I do Khan Academy with my class at the beginning of the year, we always do an assignment together. And so you can do that in, your live hangout. You could have each of the kids write down the answer they think is the correct one and hold it up. And then they're doing it together and they're getting a tutorial of how to use it.
Very cool. And so when you're ready to sort of like go to prime time and say, okay, I want to make this part of my regular classroom fabric, such as our classrooms exist today, how would you build it into a routine? How would you make it easy and regular for your students?
So I think that depends on what your schedule looks like right now. I know that for some teachers, they are putting an announcement every day on Seesaw. Well, you can put a link into Seesaw. Some people are doing assignments through Google Classroom. Some people are doing a live check-in every day. So for me, I'm doing mostly live check-ins. And so at the end of my time, I remind them, okay, now is the time that you're going to get onto Khan Academy. I want you to do the assignment that's named such and such. And so just building it in that way would be what I would
Very
suggest.
cool. Very cool. And I'll just mention that every piece of content on Khan Academy has a unique URL. So if you ever just need to paste a link to a video or to a specific exercise, you can do that right into a Seesaw or a learning management system, in addition to the assignment process that works like this. As far as the reporting goes, I know we're in a very different environment right now, but how much are you looking at those reports? Are you translating it into grades? Does it matter?
So I am not doing grades. That's not an expectation at the elementary level. However, I am still using those reports. So one of the things that I see as fantastic about Khan Academy is there are great videos that are tutorials, right, for the students to use. So I don't have to spend my time doing that. There's great lessons. I don't have to spend my time doing that. Instead, I can use my time looking at those reports. And so just a quick story of what happened today. I assigned 2 math assignments and I was looking at the scores from students. One of my top math kiddos scored poorly. And so then I was able to look at a different report, which shows student activity. So then it shows me how long students have spent, not just navigating the pages, but actually on the assignments. And he had spent 6 minutes on 2 assignments, which is just not enough time for that type of assignments that I had uploaded. And so because I had this extra time, I was able to check in with that family, and I just said, hey, how did the assignments go? Oh, it turns out their Wi-Fi was in and out, and he was really stressed about that and tried to get both assignments in before the Wi-Fi went out again. And so I wouldn't have known that if I didn't have those reports to look back on. I could have just been like, oh, this was a tough skill for him, and moved on. But instead, I got to build that relationship and talk to him about, oh, it's totally fine. If you have to wait until later to get it done, that's fine. There's no, stress to get this done right away.
Very cool. So I love how you close the feedback loop there. Like I feel like as teachers in our normal classrooms, we're constantly having that feedback loop all day, every day, where a student does some work, we're giving them a response, they're getting that needed feedback. versus it's so hard in this sort of remote learning environment, but you're still closing that loop using Khan Academy to generate the data.
Yeah,
Super
I'm
cool.
really
Okay, so the questions are starting to pour in.
okay.
So if you're good, Madeline, I'd love to bring up a question from
Yeah.
Don and Herb and Kelly, which is, what is an ELA beta? What does that even mean?
Okay.
How should we be thinking about that?
So it basically Khan Academy, and you can talk to this probably much better, but they are adding English language arts as part of their lessons, and they're just in beta right now. So that means that they're testing them out. They're seeing what's working well, what's not, getting feedback from people so that they can improve them. Um,
Absolutely.
but but so right now there's multiple topics that you can choose from. So there's reading passages. There are there's nonfiction and fiction, and then there's also just uh, specific skills like I talked about with the vocabulary, like using glossaries and dictionaries and things like that. So I'm super excited about it.
Cool. And I just shared the link with everyone. If
Okay,
you want to
great.
use it and give us feedback, please just use that link to let us know because our content developers are really eager for that kind of information. Speaking of feedback loops, let's see here. So, um, okay. So Ramona says, I'm a fifth grade ELA and social studies teacher looking for ways to integrate Khan Academy into my remote learning instruction. I already have my students working through Google Classroom. Are there any special tips you would offer for Google Classroom users, given that you use it?
Awesome. So I use Google Classroom too, and there's a lot of compatibility between Khan Academy and Google Classroom, which is fantastic. And you can actually, in your Khan Academy account, even sync your Google Classroom to your Khan Academy class. And yeah, that's perfect.
And just explain a little bit more about what does syncing look like? What does that actually do for the teacher or for the students?
So then it just makes it well. I wish that I could
I
get.
don't want you to have to share your screen because I know you've got your students' personal information on there. We've got our fabricated data here.
Yeah, so then it just shares the information. Um,
Yeah, yeah. I think probably the easiest way to explain it is like if you've already done the hard work of getting students on a Google Classroom and everyone's all set up there, if you have to add a student or change a student in Google Classroom, those changes are automatically populated in your Khan Academy class. So that way you don't have to double work because it's all being fed over.
and I know there's been a lot of concern about like too much information going out to families, and so this is a way that you can cut down on that. And there's less for the students to click.
Ooh, I've got a really juicy question for you from Kathleen. I love this question. So I know that it's very tempting in the middle of this crisis to be totally focused on just getting through the day. I'm certainly that way most days. But if we're already thinking about next year and setting our students up for success, if a student starts Khan Academy this year, will their data go with them to their next year's teacher so they could benefit from understanding what they've done so far?
Oh, that's an awesome question. Um, if well, it depends on. Hopefully, your students are signing up with their um, school email. Um, and or just using the same login, then my understanding is that it should. I haven't followed the same group of students, and I was teaching at an older grade, but from what my students have told me, it follows them. Do you have more on that?
Absolutely. No, you nailed it. So basically, as long as they're logging in with their school account and that school account stays the same, they'll carry all that good information with them and future teachers can benefit. Lots of questions from high school educators like Nancy and Jennifer saying, hey, I love all this stuff for third through eighth grade ELA. What about us
Mhm.
high school teachers? Would you recommend that the vocabulary and grammar lessons are relevant for those students as well?
I think it really depends on the students. I mean, you are the experts on your students. You're going to know that the best. Um, I've used the grammar with middle school, and I'm sure high school teachers, you would agree that there are some holes in grammar. And so I would certainly I would certainly use it for high school. And what you might just want to change what that looks like, and you might want to, there's unit tests for um, each thing. So like if we go to sentence and clauses, or if we go to nouns, then there's going to be a unit test. So it might just look different where you assign that at the beginning, and see how they do on that, and then figure out what individual skills you want to go over, instead of assigning every single assignment.
I love that. And actually, you echoed exactly what Tim Vandenberg, your fellow ambassador, had shared a couple weeks ago, which is even for his sixth graders, he has them go back and actually master each of these things.
Yeah.
Because if they didn't learn about nouns in first grade, if they didn't learn about adverbs in third grade, he can actually fill in those gaps and make sure they're ready for sixth grade work or even ninth grade work.
Yep.
Okay. Let's see here. Okay. Here's an important question. I think this really speaks probably to the elementary population that you're most familiar with. Marta wants to know, if I've already created the students' usernames and passwords via the process that you just outlined, what should I send to the parents and the students themselves? Should I just send them that information directly, or is there any preferred way to go about that communication?
So I've never had to do it with distance learning.
Sure.
So that's a great question. What I would do is, I mean, again, each school looks different right now. We're having to send out a weekly email to parents. And so you could input it within that. And then, so that's probably what I would do, is just screenshot each individual username, and you could do that. Oh, perfect.
Yeah, I was going to add, I think you're absolutely right. Totally the best way to do it is whatever is natural for your sort of communication style. If you're using Seesaw or screen capture tools, Khan Academy does have a formal letter to parents where you can list it that's in a bunch of different languages, which I'll share in the chat here. And you can always take advantage of these if you just need some language to get started with. But I think that your point is totally valid, Madeline. Okay, hopefully that gets you started, Marta. I know it's a tough thing to do midstream, especially given that the stream we're waiting in right now is very deep. Here's a really interesting question. So this is going to challenge you a little bit. But Shelly, who's actually working with students that are focused on GED, wants to know if there are parts of Khan Academy that are actually even appropriate for self-directed learning. So
Oh,
less
yeah.
about assignment, more about I'm empowered to go forth and learn as a student.
Yeah, actually, I think that's something that the more comfortable you can get any student with Khan Academy, the more that will naturally happen. I think for an older learner, it's going to happen very naturally. It can definitely be self-paced. Some of my third graders, in the time that they were waiting for me to get up and running with online education, assigned themselves computer programming and biology and started going through those lessons. And so absolutely, this would be great for self-paced instruction.
Very cool. And just to make that really sort of lucid, any single user of Khan Academy, whether you're a teacher or a student, can always click this courses button in the upper left-hand corner and really can start digging in on whatever they're curious about. So if you do have adult learners or older learners who are just ready to just dominate grammar or whatever it is that they need to learn, they can get started even without assignments. Always available to you. Okay, great question, Shelly. Great response, Madeline. Here's a tough one. So Krista says, when setting this up for an autistic 8th grade girl, what do you think is the best approach? And if the student had ADHD, would you think about it differently in terms of engagement? So basically just thinking about all your different kinds of learners, I need advice for making sure that they're all served really well using a tool like Khan Academy.
Mm-hmm. So again, it's going to depend on your individual student, and what works best for them. So for one of my students who has autism, she actually really prefers the videos on Khan Academy to anything else. The use of color is really calming to her, and she loves it. And so when I posted a video of my online instruction, her mom emailed me and said, is there actually a Khan Academy version? So for her, it worked really well and so much better. For another one of my students this year that has autism, he does not like the Khan Academy videos. but he loves the activity and doing the assignment on there. He just prefers getting the instruction from me. So there's going to be, give and take, and just, I guess, having that conversation with them about what's working with this and what's not. And as teachers, we're really flexible, so just keeping that flexibility with this as well.
Very cool. Great feedback. And actually, very similar. Cesar wants to know, do you have any students who are English language learners? And if so, how do you address that, given that so much of this is text-based?
Mm-hmm. So I do have some students that are English language learners. So you can actually turn on captions, and so I will do that with the videos because sometimes they'll miss something, or they will think that two words is one, and so it just helps with clarity. So far, it has not been a huge issue for my students to navigate it. But there have been times where with some of the ELA, I've been moving down to some second grade, not because they aren't able to do the academics, but I can't put the same supports in with this distance learning, or at least I haven't figured out a perfect way to do that yet. And so there are sometimes where I might use just a little bit simpler level so that they can access it easier.
Great advice, Madeline. That actually sort of leads to a bigger question. Can you speak to the idea of differentiation on Khan Academy more broadly? When we did our initial demo, we were mostly talking about lockstep, everyone gets the same assignment. If you want to serve each student where they are, how would you go about doing that?
There's so many different ways to do that. And it might even actually be easier for you because you've been working with your students in person up to this point. So you probably have a pretty good idea of where they're at. So you can assign from there. If you don't, if it's a new concept, then you can see how they're doing on the assignments, and then you can scale back. There's actually, if you're doing math, there's very clear cut, like if you need remediation in third grade, click here. If you need, supports for this, click here. And then with ELA, it's not there yet, but because it's in beta, but you can just yourself look through the different levels, and you can make it more challenging for your students that need that, assign them a fourth grade or a fifth grade, or go the other way.
Cool. And just to sort of operationalize that, anywhere you can make assignments on the site, whether it's on the lesson itself or in the teacher classroom, you always have the chance to do all students or just some of the students. And so you can really make sure that every student is getting what they need, not just whatever the class is getting. Speaking of getting what you need, Nathan, a parent, actually asks really an important question, which is, okay, I'm a parent of a second grader, and I'm trying to make sure that my daughter has what she needs to get ready for third grade, but I don't want to just like skip to third grade and start her on that ELA beta. Do you recommend anything to get started at that second grade level?
Well, so I would suggest doing some of the grammar lessons. That would be really, really good. There's some pretty basic things in there, like nouns, singular nouns, things like that. So I would do that, I would think. And then, but I don't think there's any harm with doing what beta is available for second grade, and filling the time with that for now.
Yeah. Have you ever used Khan Kids with your students at all, Madeline? Oh,
Well,
cool. Yeah.
not with my students, but I have two little ones.
Aha.
And so with my 3-year-old, he uses Khan Academy. He's not going to preschool anymore, which was pretty devastating for him. And so he uses Khan Academy Kids, and he loves it. And he was really excited because that is continuing to develop. And so recently there was assignments for first grade that came up, and he was so excited about new videos. And so it's a great tool. It's an app that it'll go through short lessons, and you can either select the lessons yourself, or you can just press play and it will lead you through lessons.
Absolutely. And it's all free, all available on these app stores, as you can see on the screen. And in some ways, it's easier to get started with, especially in this remote learning environment. Because like you said, Madeline, you just start it and it just goes. And you don't have to worry about all these assignments and everything else. So it could be a nice way for the early elementary educators out there to get their students started.
And you can still get
Yeah,
reports.
great, great.
So.
Sarah from Guilford County, North Carolina asked, and this is a very important question, can you actually preview the lesson in videos before you assign them, or are you basically just shooting in the dark and hoping for the best?
No, you can absolutely preview anything. I typically do the assignment myself. Now, there's sometimes with some of the assignments, there's lots of different possible questions that could be asked, and I'll just run through one possibility, but just so I have a good idea of what I'm actually asking students to do. So yes, you can preview everything, which is really nice. You can preview, because you can, the students, when they're doing the assignment, can have access to hints. And so I like to see what those are going to look like for the students.
Very cool. And a little pro tip just to go along with that is if you're ever curious what your students are experiencing, and I'm sure you are, add yourself as a student to your own classroom. And that way you actually have the ability to see every email, every notification, everything that your students are about to get. All you have to do is come in here to your classroom dashboard, go to the class code, which is over in the upper right-hand corner, and then under your name, go to Learner Home. And from there, you can actually add yourself as a student and see everything that the student sees through their eyes. Have you ever done that, Madeline? Has that ever been a useful thing? Okay, cool,
Yeah,
cool.
and then also I just add courses that I'm interested in. So like I think I have astronomy in there right now,
Mm.
and so I show the kids like, hey, this is something I'm excited about. I'm going to be learning, and so then they kind of feel like, oh, you're using this too. You're a learner too, and it kind of builds that connection too.
I love that. Any tips, speaking of that, about just like growth mindset, especially in this moment when we feel like so deflated and we're like, I don't even want to, think about tomorrow. How do you keep your students feeling really strong and persistent right now?
Um, that's a good question. Just keeping things light. Um, at the beginning of each academic year, I do growth mindset lessons with them through Khan Academy. That's a course that they have available that's nice to help kids get into that mindset. Um, but I think just continuing the connection with your kids is so important in
Very
whatever way you
cool.
can.
Very cool. And then two final questions for you. Number one, where do you typically go to get support if you run into challenges with Khan Academy or just want to learn from other educators?
So there's some Facebook groups for Khan Academy educators, and that's really nice because you get feedback really quickly. You can just type in your question like, hey, who's run into this? Or, hey, I'm running into this issue. How have you motivated students? And you get responses really quickly. So I highly recommend joining that. It is a private group, so just have to ask for access.
Very cool. And then lastly, as we face the tough month ahead of us and maybe even a little more, any words of wisdom that you want to share with ELA educators out there, just as far as how to stay strong in this moment and how to serve their students the best way possible?
I think take a deep breath, and less is more. You're doing the best that you can for your students just by being there and by trying. And it's just going to be a steep learning curve. So try to have as much fun with it as you can.
Cool. Well, I think those are great words to end on. So, Madeline, thank you so much for being with us today, away from your own children, your own students, to serve other educators. And thank you all for joining us. And we wish you well on your journey in the next couple months ahead. Thanks,
Absolutely. Thank you
everyone.
so much for having me.
Have a great day, all.